Hey, at the University of Florida Museum of Natural History today with Roger Portell, we're going to look into invertebrate fossils today. Roger, it's finally good to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Hi, Roger Portell. I'm the Director of Invertebrate Paleontology Collections here at the Florida Museum of Natural History, which is on the campus of University of Florida. I'm in charge of all of the fossil invertebrates. So that covers lots of groups of animals like crabs and sea urchins and sea biscuits, mollusks, snails and clams, worms, bryozoans, brachiopods, and all of the traces that they leave behind in the sediment that they're buried in.
So why do you work on such a broad expanse of the invertebrate field?
Because there's just not enough of us to go around. And being here in Florida, we have no shortage of invertebrate fossils. I try to learn as much as I can about all the different groups. And so I've published on everything from vertebrates to bryozoans, crabs, echinoderms. And I enjoy that. I enjoy knowing about all of these groups of organisms, and we're finding new things almost every day. So it's pretty exciting.
Yeah. We've exchanged emails for the last 3 years. Ever since I found a really cool sand dollar.
Yeah.
That was my first Abertella dengleri.
Yeah.
Since then, you've got me digging every other day for invertebrates. I'm sort of hooked on it. So I put boxes together and sent them to you. They wound up in the collection listing. Some of them I thought were pretty rough.
Yeah.
Tell me about how that's important to you guys.
Yeah, so we're not always looking for pristine, beautiful specimens.
Okay, so a couple of months ago, I sent you a picture of what looked like a little sea urchin.
Mm-hmm.
Asked for an identification, you gave me one. You said you'd be interested in having it.
Mm-hmm.
It's the only one I found in 8 years, but I brought it with me.
Good.
And this is another example of a fossil that I would say, geez, that's pretty rough for Roger to be interested in it. You know?
I assume this is a Peace River specimen.
Yes, I guess.
And what we've found are individual plates of Prionosideris, which is a sea urchin, and the radials or spines.
Right.
And we find thousands of the radials,
Right.
the spines. And we find a few of the test fragments, but never have I seen, this is the very first one where I've seen a test that is nearly complete.
And sitting proud.
Yeah, and it's sitting right on top of an Abertella.
Right.
And so it's neat to have those associations too, because we find all those spines and test fragments loose in the sediment, but seldom do we get them actually attached where we can definitively say that they're together. So they're in that same deposit. But this was the first test that I've seen that's actually mostly there. Definitely a specimen we'd want for the collection.
Great.
Because it shows the size and the shape, and it shows the association with Abertella.
It is from the site that I've sent most of the other
Perfect.
samples
Well,
to.
thank you. Yeah, that's a great specimen. Yeah. I wish we would have had that for the publication.
Yeah,
You got to get out there more.
I didn't ask you whether you wanted this one, but last year I think I sent you an example of this, and you thought it was a pretty
beautiful.
cool one.
Yeah.
This one obviously is half buried still in the matrix, but I love these two gastropods, I think.
What I'll end up doing is prepping this one out. And so this is one that I'll spend some time probably using a microjack and cleaning it up quite a bit. Yeah, they're silicified, so they're no longer calcium carbonate. They've been replaced with silica, and they're absolutely beautiful.
Yeah. Great. So those are my donations. I haven't got anything else for you this time.
Oh, don't. No, this is great. This is kind of where we look at the material, make sure that it's ready to be cataloged, and then we'll move it into the collection area for actual cataloging and digitization. Rick and Harry are in here picking through matrix that we've collected from various stratigraphic sections, and they're sorting out all the bivalves and gastropods. And so this is Lindsay, and Lindsay's cataloging. So this is material that we just brought in from a collection in Georgia. And so Lindsay's getting it ready, cataloging it, and once she catalogs it, digitizes it, the material will be used by researchers from around the world.
Out of the 87 listings in my name, there's a bunch that don't have names, species names. Is there a period of time where the staff fills that out if it is described?
Absolutely.
Or is it?
No, absolutely. So it may take 20 or 30 years before they get described. 20 or 30 years.
20 or 30.
Or 50 years. Or this is the range area, and this is where the formed collections are kept. And these are the collections that we've cleaned, identified, digitized, and then they're filed away. Just like you go to a library with library books, we do the same with specimens. And then they're available for researchers, for educators, for exhibits people to come and utilize. Yeah, so here we go.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Somebody's looking
your
familiar.
specimen is on loan. It's on exhibit
To where?
to the Florida Museum exhibits.
Cool.
Yeah, so there's the pink slip. So there it is.
Great. It's a pretty impressive thing. I mean,
Yeah, it
sometimes
is.
that makes limestone.
It is a beautiful specimen, and so it's going to be on display for probably 6 or 8 months, and that way the public will be able to enjoy it.
Most fossil collectors are into the big, Florida it's the mammals, you know, out west it's the dinosaurs. Shells are fossils too, right?
Shells are fossils, along with lots and lots of other invertebrates. They're fossils, and they're so diverse. There's so many different forms, and they are exciting. And there are a lot of shell clubs here in the state, and almost every club has a component of their members that want to go out all the time and collect fossil shells.
'Cause, I mean, you got John excited about it, and then
Yeah.
he was finding these weird sand dollars that
And the likelihood is that for the collectors that are out there frequently, you're going to find something new in the invertebrate realm because there's just so much diversity. Versus the vertebrate realm, you have to work a long, long time to find a new vertebrate animal, whereas with invertebrates, it's a little bit easier.
Well, there's a lot more invertebrate life in the world than there is vertebrate life.
Think about 90%.
Cool.
This back wall goes from youngest to oldest fossils that we have here in Florida. And most of the fossils that we have in the collection are from the Cenozoic, the last 65 million years. These are Pliopleistocene horse conchs, Triplophusis giganteus. And they come from lots of the shell pits in southern Florida and a few areas in the northern part of the state. And then some of the Sinistra fulgurs, the left-handed shells. One of the things that people don't realize is that there's left-handed and right-handed shells. And so you can pick up shells and see that they're left-handed and right-handed.
Those are beautiful shells too. I've got.
Yeah, it's always great when you find a fossil helmet shell.
Now, will you find any of that kind of stuff in the piece, or is that a completely different?
There should be some, but it's going to be really rare. So that's why you got to get out there more. So, and then different kinds of corals that we find, and corals are always interesting, not just for the coral, but the corals also act as a domicile for different kinds of creatures. There are crabs that make domiciles inside of corals. They're cryptochirids. There are lots of things that bore into corals. And so we're always interested not in just the coral, but what do we find on them and in them. So this is a spectacular piece because it really does show the holes that the clam made and then how that is expressed in the inside of the coral that's been replaced.
Yeah.
So the original aragonite, the original calcium carbonate is gone, and now it's just a silicified
Super.
remnant.
Yeah,
Did
that
you
is.
ever find the clams?
That's
Have you
amazing.
ever
Oh yeah, absolutely. People contact me, like you did all the time, and because they're wondering, is this a fossil? Is this anything?
Yeah.
And so I get people going to the beaches in Brevard County, and they bring me these or send me a picture of these, and they're like, "What is that?"
Crabs.
And so
Now there you can see.
that looks more like a crab.
Yeah.
And so we started slicing some open, and sure enough, there's a racing crab,
Oh, no kidding.
occipity, in them. These are about 125,000 years old. And yeah, so we went down there, and even some of the rolled ones, you can kind of make out the claws here.
Are they still coming ashore at the moment?
Absolutely. The beach renourishment is hurting it, but yeah, they're still coming ashore. People are still finding them, and
Brevard.
yeah.
Well, I'm really glad we finally got together
Yeah, well,
face
John-
to face, and I appreciate the time that you've given
Well,
us.
John, I always appreciate your donations. They're valuable to documenting all the invertebrates, the fossil invertebrates of Florida, and always welcome your donations and having you come up and visit.
Well, I appreciate it, and I'll sharpen my shovel and get right at it.
Get out there.